The Iowa Hawkeyes set to host yet another top 5 team as the Michigan Wolverines come calling to Kinnick Stadium this Saturday. And yes, it is the big noon kickoff game with Fox. We'll get to the preview in just a moment, but first I want to talk to you about Iowa Floor Covering. They're sponsoring the channel now. We're so appreciative of that. And the guys down in Bondurant, great customer service for all of your flooring needs. Right now they have a special going on. Tough Core Click Together 4.5 millimeter waterproof vinyl flooring, $269 per foot with self-installation. Great value, folks, from great people and a great company in central Iowa down in Bondurant. Visit iowafloorcovering.com/DIY. That's iowafloorcovering.com/DIY. And of course, Ascent Nutrition. They've been with us for a while and we appreciate their support. And I'll tell you, that coffee that they sell, it is great stuff. And we got an early kick on Saturdays. And of course, we know many football games starting early on Saturday mornings. Whether you're talking about the work week or the weekend, you need some coffee to perk you up, and you need coffee that's not going to damage your health. This stuff is mold and mycotoxin free, premium coffee, Ascent coffee from Ascent Nutrition. Visit goascentnutrition.com. Use the code Hawkeyes for 15% off your order. You're supporting this channel and that of a former Hawkeye when you order with the code Hawkeyes at goascentnutrition.com. Oh boy, the rematch, as we call it. For anybody who's followed this channel for a while knows that I had my run-ins with Michigan fans last year, and I don't have any bad blood or anything like that, nor should I. But boy, there were a lot of Michigan fans angry. I mean, literally like seething with anger. I don't know why anybody cares enough about what I say about an Iowa football game, but they were angry when I picked Iowa to win that game last December. Of course, that didn't happen. Iowa's offense couldn't. I mean, let's be honest. The game was close for a while. Any Michigan fan who wants to tell me otherwise is wrong. It was a 2-score game in the third quarter, and that's a 2-score game where Iowa's offense had done nothing. They had 3 points in the third quarter, but that defense was holding an electric Michigan offense down to some extent. But eventually, the dam breaks. Michigan tacked on some cheap points late, and the Wolverines win the game 42-3. So I hear people. I was talking with Mark Rogers yesterday on our show, and I was reading some of the people in the chat. Well, how are you going to make up a 39-point difference in 1 year? If you're making a comment like that, you really don't understand how the game works. You really have no idea how the game works. So I'm not necessarily predicting an Iowa win. I'm not giving you my pick right now. I'll be picking the game here likely tomorrow. I'm recording this on Wednesday, the 28th. But my picks, including all of my picks for the week ahead of college football, I'll be releasing here on the channel. But as it relates to this game, I want to kind of give you a brief synopsis, a preview, kind of wrap this all up. We've been talking about it for a while, and we'll continue to talk about it. I've got a show, a Hawkeye Hangout live call-in show Wednesday night, tonight at 9 p.m. Central Time for all you Hawkeye and Wolverine fans. But, you look at this matchup, the biggest storylines to me, and I had a conversation with Justin Rowe, who does cover Michigan athletics, and I thought he made some good points. I said last week before the Rutgers game that the biggest key in basically every game moving forward for Iowa would be the ability to create turnovers and to limit turnovers. I'm not giving you anything groundbreaking. Even Kirk Ferentz alluded to that at the press conference on Tuesday, and they've prided themselves on turnover margin and being one of the best teams in the country in turnover margin for years throughout Kirk Ferentz's tenure. But I think this game and this season, that's just emphasized even more the importance of not turning the ball over for this offense. Because, look, the offense, I don't expect this offense to do much of anything on Saturday, frankly. I don't mean to burst anybody's bubbles. I've been saying for several days now, including during the postgame show with Coach Patterson, this is a game where I'm bringing out any type of trick play. I know people got a kick when I was using the word exotics. That's a football term. But if Iowa's got any of those in the back pocket of Brian Ferentz, pull it out now, all right? They tried a halfback pass in the Big Ten Championship game, nearly connected, but I didn't love the design of that going over the shoulder to Monty Pottebaum, Iowa's fullback. Had they hit on that, though, I think it changes the complexion of that game. Would Iowa have won? I'm not saying that, but it would have changed the complexion of that game. And I've talked to Michigan people who agree that that was a huge play in the game. And that's what margin for error in situations like these sometimes is. So I think if you're Iowa, you pull one out of the bag, and you probably pull one out early in that first half, maybe not the first quarter, but certainly the first half. Don Patterson has talked about some of the key analytics for Big Ten football going back to last season into this year, and he has worked tirelessly providing this not only to the fans and us here on YouTube, but also Kirk Ferentz on a regular basis. First quarter scoring is huge. Fourth quarter scoring is huge. And you may say, well, that's obvious. Well, last year it wasn't. I believe it was second quarter scoring and third quarter scoring. So these trends change at times. But the point is, I would expect Iowa to defer if they win the toss. I would expect them to take the wind in that first quarter and set themselves up for early success and success in that fourth quarter. And so if they do that, I think you have an opportunity to hit one. Keegan Johnson not expected to play this week. Can the running game continue to get better? It was better at times against Rutgers, struggled at other times. I really think the biggest key in this game is on the other side of the ball. We know Iowa's defense. It's the number one scoring defense in the country right now. Michigan is not far behind, but they did give up some points to Maryland. Iowa in the secondary will be tested. This will be Iowa, by far Iowa's biggest test. Yes, I know they went up against one of the best wide receivers in the country in Xavier Hutchinson week 2. They held him somewhat in check. He didn't quite hit 100. I think he had 99 receiving yards for the game. But Michigan has skill position players everywhere. They've got wideouts that can burn you deep. They've got a tight end and Schoonmaker who's going to get his. Iowa is down Justin Jacobs at linebacker, which is huge because he's a tight end stopper. And we saw that against Iowa State and their talented tight ends in 2021. Cooper DeJean's going to be logging a lot of snaps. Brendan Diaz-Fernandez, who was a backup corner, is out. So depth at corner is already hurt with him out. And, of course, we know Jamari Harris is out for the season. The biggest question, and this is a storyline to follow the rest of this week, will Terry Roberts play? If he does not, you're looking at Riley Moss, Cooper DeJean as your two main corners, which is going to force Sebastian Castro to play cash, which he did admirably against Rutgers. Different storyline against Rutgers. Takes Cooper DeJean out of that cash spot. Terry Roberts will be able to be the second corner if he plays. If not, then it's Moss, Cooper DeJean, and then according to the depth chart, true freshman TJ Hall, who I do think is more than capable, but no real game experience. And then walk-on from Humboldt, Jamison Heinz. That's a bit concerning. I'm not saying Heinz can't hold his own, but we've never seen the kid. So I do believe it's going to be how will Jim Harbaugh approach this game. If I'm Harbaugh and Terry Roberts is out and Brendan Diaz-Fernandez is out and Justin Jacobs is out, boy, I'm thinking about taking shots. But at the same time, if I'm Harbaugh, just with this game in general, regardless of who Iowa has on the back end, you know Iowa's solid across, and the way they stay in games and win games is with turnovers, creating turnovers. I'm really seriously considering being ultra conservative in a game like this because I just can't imagine, I really cannot imagine Michigan losing this game unless they turn the ball over at least a couple times. So if J.J. McCarthy, who I expect to be the starter on Saturday, if he can at least make the makeables and not force the action, I like Michigan's chances. But I do believe that Jim Harbaugh, and this may be somewhat inadvertent from Iowa due to injuries, Jim Harbaugh might actually be baited into trying to take some shots. I think he probably will take some shots on the Iowa secondary. We've seen Moss and DeJean get burned at times. So I think they'll take a shot. They know multiple shots. They know Iowa's thin there, on the back end. I'm not saying that's the right move. Again, if I'm Harbaugh, even with the depleted secondary for Iowa, I'm thinking about being conservative, but I do believe Harbaugh may do that, which means I believe there's a chance Iowa could profit off of it. Now, maybe Harbaugh and Michigan take advantage of it like they did last year on a trick play, and they hit a big one. That's possible. And certainly I would favor Michigan to win a game if they can hit at least one big trick play. But say Iowa's ready for it, despite not being real deep at those corner positions, then you have an opportunity at making a big play, possibly a pick six type deal, or at least a turnover that changes the complexion of a game, flips the field, etc. We know special teams will be big, but I think that's going to be the key, is going to be turnovers, and specifically, what is Jim Harbaugh's approach? Take shots or don't take shots. Doesn't mean you're not going to throw the ball past 20 yards, 30 yards at some point, go for an explosive or super explosive play. But what's his mindset in general? It'll be fascinating to see. And who will guard Schoonmaker? With Justin Jacobs out, will we see a lot of Logan Klemp? Could we see one of the other linebackers, or will Iowa move maybe a Seth Benson out there? He doesn't have the size of Justin Jacobs or Jack Campbell. Quinn Schulte's not a real big guy. He's played admirably. I think you're going to see some Sebastian Castro. He's got some size. The good news is Iowa is deep in the front seven, and their depth in the secondary is being tested. But so many storylines, terrific stuff, folks. Hope you enjoyed kind of a brief synopsis of what I believe to be the keys to the game, Michigan's mentality versus what Iowa thrives on, and that is taking advantage of the opponent forcing the issue and of course, turning those turnovers oftentimes into points, especially if the defense can make it into the end zone or at least put the offense into field position. So again, we'll see noon Eastern, 11 Central Time, 11 a.m. Central Time on Saturday. Big noon kickoff on Fox. And then, of course, following the game right here, it's from the Hawkeye of the Storm, Iowa postgame with Coach Don Patterson. We'll be live taking your calls, your chats, your questions. Do want to remind you, tonight, it's Hawkeye Hangout, 9 p.m. Central Time. 9 p.m. Central Time for Hawkeye Hangout. Your calls, your chats, you and me, talking Hawkeye football. We'll have a great time.